the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
PBS, this just in. An entire battalion of weaponized misogynists will be descending on hapless Chicago to forcefully fondle the city's innocence. With them are notorious fascist pug handler Count Dankula, rape joke enabler Sargon of Akkad, alt-right menace Mr. Reagan, Satan himself Paul Elam, and the devil's handmaid Karen Swan. We have just received word from an expert in hateology that if you even so much as look upon this conference, your eyes will be burned out of your skull, your tongue will invert, and your anus will seethe from the union. We repeat, do not so much as glance at this convention and its related paraphernalia of evil.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. This is HBR News number 215, Marrying Off Minors. Oh, wait, no, that's wrong. We're not doing that anymore. This is number 215, Men Pay for Women's Comfort, Free Vasectomies, and Is Anita Really Herstory? Where we reflect on the stories of the week and give it the Badger treatment. So, we have a great show lineup for you guys today, so please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat as well as the comment section. On this week's HBR News Show, we'll be talking about the honks of the week, which include a man who wins the lottery and loses most of it to his ex-wife, student outreach clinics in Nevada offering free vasectomies as birth control for men, more info about Anita Sarkeesian's business going broke, and more. So stick around, it's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only after show. In a selfless act of selfless courage, the likes of which none of you plebs could ever know, Jean Carroll, pictured here, finally breaks her silence about the time that Orange Man assaulted her 23 years ago in a dressing room at the Berghoff Goodman, which is a very high-end store in Manhattan that you have to be like super rich to be able to afford anything. But that's not important right now. The important thing is
weird flex, but okay.
Yes. But it gets better. She wrote a piece on it to talk about how hard her life was. And it actually goes further. It's entitled, Hideous Men. Donald Trump assaulted me in a Berghoff Goodman dressing room 23 years ago, but he's not alone on the list of awful men in my life. And we're going to go into this extremely selfless act of selfless courage that this, kind of a high class, somewhat rich woman wants to, talk about because she's oppressed or whatever, and really actually has it quite hard. So you should join us in the after show for that. In order to do that, you have to become a Badger. So you can do that by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. And that will get you into the Discord, where you'll be able to talk with the other patrons. You'll be able to get links to the after shows like this one, as well as other things like say Alison is making a video. She might show it off to the patrons so they can watch it first and maybe provide some feedback or whatever. It's a really great community. So please consider going to Feed the Badger and starting a monthly subscription. And also, if you don't want to wake up one morning and find yourself unable to find our content because YouTube finally dropped the axe on our channels, go to badgerfeed.com. That's badgerfeed.com. So let's, without further ado, get into the stories. All right, so first we're going to be talking about men paying up. The patriarchy pays out. Let's put it that way. Yeah, there was a lot of alliteration there I never meant to do, but it kind of worked out. Okay, so story number one, foodie calls. This is a thing, okay? Multiple studies published in the Journal of Social, Psychological, and Personality Science, as cited by the Daily Mail, found around 1 in 3 women have been on a date just to get a free meal. Specifically, setting up a date with someone they are not romantically interested in to be wined and dined. And this should have come as to surprise to nobody. that would be the case. Of the around 1,000 women studied, those who engaged in what they're calling foodie calls, get it? It's like booty calls, but just for food, were correlated with a high score on the 3 dark personality traits: psychopathy, Machiavellianism, and narcissism. You don't say. They also found women who believe in traditional gender roles were also more likely to make foodie calls and think that they are acceptable. Again, this should have come to as a surprise to nobody. So that's the first one. So basically we're talking, like, according to the study, 1 in 3 women go on dates with men that they're not interested in because they want a free meal. Does anybody have any thoughts?
Is this the kind of first world version of a third world problem? This is what I have to do to scrounge my next meal. I have to be nice to a man. It's awful. Well, in order for a man to get his next meal, he needs to fucking haul something in order to get it.
Yeah, really. This is why, guys.
Wonder how many of those women don't have jobs.
I bet they all do. They just want the meal because they want the gesture. I've seen this in other, many other places, you know, like videos and shows and stuff that have like looked at this dynamic of men paying for women's meals on dates. Most of the time, they just want the meal because they want to see if the man has the capacity to be a provider. So that's the test, right? And that's why if a man who they're going on a date with says, "We're going Dutch," she just is immediately turned off by that, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yep.
It does show.
If you are the one who extends the invitation, though, you're supposed to pay, right? Because that's the way we used to do it.
Yeah,
when I was
but
dating.
isn't that the reason why women usually wait for men to offer? Because we're talking about women who are going on dates with men but are not actually interested
in.
Right. So they're not saying no when they're offered because they believe that they're getting a free meal. So they say yes, and then of course, you know, he can't take her to McDonald's, so he's got to spend some money, and she's got no interest she has no real interest in him. So, you know, it's kind of like, I mean, I guess it's just the landscape of dating. I don't have, I'm not thrilled with this, but I'm not surprised. This is actually really normal, and it's been this way, from what I understand, for a long time. There are women that go on dates with men.
There is a bit of a ray of sunshine in this article that they really do quickly gloss over.
Mm-hmm.
But they do mention that basically the other portion, which is, you know, the 66 to 75% of women that don't do this, not only do they not do this, but they believe that it is extremely to moderately unacceptable to do this.
It's also bizarre in my book.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that is good that most women don't do this. And most of those women find doing that to be, like you said, unacceptable. And that's a good thing in a way, right? But it's still like, you know, just, I guess I thought it was interesting because we're supposed to live in a, you know, this super oppressive society. And what the thing is, and maybe this is where feminists get it kind of right, because I think that that's what they would say, that at least the moderate ones would say something like, on a date, you know, it should be maybe that they go Dutch, or that once in a while the woman should pay, or something like that. But that would only be under the condition that she likes him. The thing they leave out is, if they're not interested, they should just say they're not interested. That's better than, you know, going on a date anyway. And I think that's messed up. And yeah, I think that one of the reasons why a lot of women don't like that too is because these women make the rest of them look bad. Because if men learn that this is happening, and I think that most men know that this happens, they know about it. They just, you know, I guess they just feel like the risk is worth it, or maybe they're moving away from that.
Yeah, at the same time, you know, there are idiots in the world, and the reason scams exist is because idiots are out there to get scammed. Mm-hmm. And there's only so far you can take your sympathy for an idiot who gets scammed. I mean, to some degree, we're here to give people the information they need to not get scammed. But at the same time, I have trouble feeling bad for idiots who are foolish enough to get scammed out of one meal. Because I don't know that. Presumably something to do with Tinder, right, or some kind of a dating app. I mean, I don't know how you even know someone
it would have to
enough,
be...
but not enough to go out for a meal with them, but not even know them enough. That sounds like a dating thing, and I'm unfamiliar with it.
Quite possibly. Does anybody else have any other thoughts on this? Because we got two other ones in this sort of micro category.
I guess if I was a guy, there's another thing I'd be really annoyed about with regard to this. Like, you can make more money, but you can't get back the time that you wasted with that person. You could have been hanging out with somebody who's actually interested. I'd be pissed as hell about that.
Yep.
I mean, it's annoying to get scammed out of money because you spend time and labor working to get that too. But you've always got, the ability to get more of that. But the time you spend, you can't get back. And it's you have your limited amount. This is how long you're going to live. And everything that you do, if you're wasting time with something like that, that's pretty crappy.
Yep. And you know what, though, too, is that men give women money who aren't interested in them without even going on a date with them all the time. So I think part of the problem is men's tolerance is a lot higher than it should be, in my opinion. Like, for example, on the internet, we talked about Twitch thoughts, right? Twitch thoughts and Instagram thoughts and Snapchat thoughts. They're fitness models. They're whatever. They're cosplayers that dress sexy. And part of what they do is they create a cult of personality around a large follower base. Then they get those men to go to their Patreon or give them donations, and then they get for that, slightly lewder than average photos. Some of them do nudes, whatever. And guys pay for that, and they get to be, they're made to feel special, but they don't get anything out of it. They invest tons of money. There's like I don't remember her name, but there's a really famous or well-known sort of online thought, and I say that because these people call themselves that, like this girl does in particular, and she's famous for making like the Hegao face. It's like this mind break anime thing that's really popular, and she has a Patreon. I think the highest level is something like $2,000, and you get like all this personal stuff. Like, it's almost borderline girlfriend experience, but you never meet her. She like sends you, personal things that doesn't cost her shit, like a photograph, like with a Polaroid or something. But like guys pay for that. I mean, they like, it's crazy because it's like we have men, I think, and this is probably something that's happened over time, and we'll get into the other two stories about this, although this is less to do with what I'm about to say. Men seem to have so little self-respect when it comes to women that they will just give away their hard-earned money to women that have no interest in them and know that that's the case, and that there's no chance. They don't have any chance with this person, and they're not even getting to know that person. They're getting a character that person has created, a persona. Even people on YouTube create a character of themselves to some extent, and to think that I can't help
but think of the parallels between this and us, or some of us, or whatever we do. Because to some degree, I'm some kind of internet celebrity, and I've sort of met people. But when I meet people in real life, they invariably want to talk about the issues I talk about. They want to discuss the same subjects I'm interested in. And that's why they pay me, but these thoughts, presumably, even if they ever did appear in public, what would they talk about with the fans who've come to see them? Just me and how hot my body is.
Yeah, it's not. There's no way could never, like, these people could never do that, because not without them being like on a stage or in some sort of controlled environment where they can go out and play their character, this persona they created, and then leave the stage. Even then, it's like, why? But anyway, my point is, men's self-respect, young men in particular, is just in the toilet because they put up with and they pay so much. Maybe it's not just young men. I should take that back, because anyone
It's
who
not.
can afford a $2,000 monthly subscription to Belle Delphine, that's her name, because they want to get a Polaroid and a personal message or whatever it is that she offers, that guy's not a young man, because $2,000 is a lot of fucking money. So
It's not just young men, and there's more to it than a lack of self-respect. There is, I think, some instinct there as well. And
Yeah.
it's something that I've noticed. I've had to actually turn down especially when I was younger, when I was like in my 20s and my early 30s. I had to turn down sugar daddy offers because there were guys that got to know me, and I don't really have like an upper age limit on someone I will consider my friend. I've had friends in the age range clear up into the 80s, both sexes, just people that I connected with and chatted with and enjoyed being around and everything because they were cool people. And I've had almost invariably, especially men who are older than me, will display this instinct to provide for and take care because I'm a female friend, and I guess I always looked more vulnerable than I am or something. But this is something that, like, it is very easy for women to run into a guy who, if they're just personable with them, just nice, friendly, you don't necessarily, it doesn't even have to be a sexual thing, who will throw money at them. And it's an area of vulnerability for guys because they do have that instant or instinct to sort of take care of the people that they care about in that particular way, providing for them. Like it struck me at first as very strange that someone I'm not even cooking for wanted to give me money. Once I got used to, this is going to happen sometimes and I'm going to have to deal with it, because I'm a person that, like, when I had a Patreon for my videos and everything, I even set it up so that I didn't get paid if I didn't make videos, because it felt weird, the idea of actually just getting paid every month whether I worked or not. It's just my instinct, I guess you could say. So that it really was a really weird thing for me. But once I got used to it and I learned to deal with it, being able to communicate that helped, smooth things over and take the idea of money out of the picture and just allow the friendship to continue the way it was. But I'm sure there's a lot of gals out there that are like, "Oh, hey, I can get money," and they just take it. Did I lose sound or did I stun everybody?
Oh no,
Still
I was accidentally muted. No, this is just
Oh.
like you said. This is just it's like the sugar daddy thing, but it's basically like on the scale of the internet. So anyone from any part of the world can, essentially reach out. And when these young ladies put out these, I mean, it's tempting. I get it. Like, you can get 20. Look, Bell here. I put it on the screen. $2,500 or more per month. And what do you get? What do you get? Okay, besides her praise, you get everything else written. So that would be access to a custom photo set for you, which she doesn't do any nudes, so forget that. Access to my private Snapchat, very lewd Polaroid, sign it with a kiss, access to my ahegao photos, HD lewd sets, my cute and sometimes weird selfies, behind the scenes of my photo shoots, and then, I love you so much, which is really easy to type. I could type that. And then with the God level, this is the highest. It says, this tiers gives you access to absolutely everything else written below and more, but doesn't really go into specifics. And it says, I look forward to talking to you. Love, Bell. So, and look, the fact is, guys can do whatever they want with their money, but I think that if men had more self-respect, they would recognize that this is a black hole. You're throwing money into something when you could be saving it yourself. And maybe if you've built enough, you'll be able to let's say, create your own miniature enterprise. Type it, Brian. What do you mean? Type what? What are you talking about? Anyway, No, my wife is
You said
asking
you
me to
could type.
type.
I love you so much.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'll do it right now. Hold on. I can prove it. And I put it in caps, so it's actually more emphasized. Okay, but anyway. So like I said, you know, you could like if a guy was smart, he could save his money. And I think that this is, I don't want to tell women that they shouldn't do that because it's a free country. Do what you want. But I should warn men not to fall for it because you're not going to get what you think. You like if you could buy your way into this woman's bedroom, do you really want to pursue that? You don't know this person. We don't know. She could be all kinds of fucked up. But anyway, point is, going back to the original thing, you know, men try to have some more self-respect. That's all I'm saying. So, all right, and we're going to move on to the next story. This one's a little bit more ragey. Man buys winning lottery ticket, order to share with his ex. So, a lottery winner is being forced to share his winnings with his ex-wife, even though they were in the process of divorce when he bought the ticket. From CNN, Richard Zalasko won an $80 million Mega Millions jackpot in July of 2013. After taxes and fees, his prize was $38,873,628. So first, the guy won $80 million, and the tax man took more than half of that. Okay, the government took more than half, which if you don't know that, that's true about any lottery winner. So anytime anybody wins a lottery and they get a shit ton of money, just cut it in half, and that's actually how much they got, and the state got the rest. The Detroit couple...
That's why we have lotteries, folks. The more you know.
Yes. The Detroit couple had filed for divorce in late 2011, 2 years prior, and the case had gone to arbitration when Richard Zalasko had won the prize. They were married in 2004 and have 3 children together. The arbitrator ruled the ticket was part of the couple's marital assets and awarded half of that, $15 million plus, to his ex-wife. As cited by CNN, the arbitrator said that the marital property includes all property acquired from the date of marriage until the date of entry of the divorce decree, including property acquired during a separation.
I think your math's a little bit off. That's not half.
No, it is supposed to be about half. I think that because half of 38
million, 15 million.
is like it's 19 million.
Where's 19 million coming?
No.
I'm only seeing the 15 million number.
Well, yeah, but that's what's here. I'm saying half of 38 million would be 19 million. So we're off by $4 million bucks. I guess that's just peanuts. Sorry for that miscalculation. 15 million. The court also cited the arbitrator's opinion that the winning lottery ticket was probably not the first that Richard Zalasko had purchased during the marriage, and that as losses throughout the marriage were incurred jointly, so would winnings be shared jointly. It is true that Zalasko spent $1 to buy the ticket. However, the dollar spent was arguably marital money and as such a joint investment. The arbitrator said the divorce was finalized in 2018. Richard Zalasko's representation says his client can appeal the ruling and is considering his options.
But I swear we had this discussion a couple of years ago when there was a story about a convicted rapist who got out of prison eventually and then won the lottery, and one of his victims sort of tried to get some kind of compensation out of some of that money, and at the time we were like, well, no, if he's paid for his crimes, then you don't owe him, then he doesn't owe you anything, and even that at the time felt like the sort of it almost felt like a hypothetical like thought experiment, like the fucking trolley experiment thing.
Yeah,
like this is. Imagine if this was the case, what would be the ethical thing to do? And now this is just a watered down version of this, of like all they were was married. There was no rape or anything. But does she owe him? And I'm sat here thinking, no.
Here's a question that I think no one is asking too. So she got 15 million out of it. is he also going to have to pay alimony and child support?
You know, this is something that really needs to be addressed in the court system. There needs to be a level at which judges are able to turn around and say, nobody who has this much money needs maintenance under any circumstance. Like, she just got 15 million bucks, right? If that stays the way it is, and I guarantee you, if it was the other way around and she bought the lottery ticket and he was getting part of her winnings, feminists would be coming out of the woodwork talking about how misogynistic it is that this woman is considered this man's property because she was married to him, and therefore she owes him half of what she obtained after she separated from him, right? But since it's a guy, and we're used to treating the situation as, well, men always owe part of their assets to their wives, then we're probably not going to hear from any of them. But honestly, there needs to be a point at which a judge looks at a woman going for maintenance and says, you have this much. I don't make this much, and I live very comfortably. You don't need more, and I'm not going to order anybody to give you more. Live with what you have. I would think 15 million should be plenty for a judge to be able to say that.
Well, the good news in all of this is he's definitely going to be able to afford a very good lawyer.
Well, if he has access to it, if they've frozen the assets pending the outcome of the trial, he won't.
Well, I
he
mean,
might be able to, a lawyer might work with him with the idea that, hey, eventually he's going to have that money and eventually he's going to be able to pay me, but he wouldn't be able to pay him right away.
That's how it works. Yeah, I mean, even if the worst case scenario goes through and he has a 15 mil chunk taken out of the roughly 39 mil, then he'll definitely have enough. Be like, look, dude, I'll give you $2 million if you absolutely sink this for me.
Well, he better get OJ's lawyer if he wants to win.
The ghost. I think you're gonna have to get a Ouija board for that.
Okay. Oh shit! You got money. Summon the ghost of was it Clarence Thomas or whatever? I can't remember his name.
Johnny Cochran.
Johnny Cochran. Yeah. Who the hell is Clarence Thomas? Anyway, summon the ghost of Johnny Cochran.
Supreme Court judge.
Yes. Yeah.
It's been a long time since he's been in the practice of law. He's usually in the dispensation of it.
Well, just stay away from Michael Avenatti. That's all I'm saying. That's all I know. But anyway, so like I said, I wonder if he's gonna still, on top of all this, pay alimony or child support. Like, is it gonna be like because people pay alimony mainly because there isn't the idea that a woman becomes the wife becomes accustomed to a certain lifestyle and the man has to make sure that she maintains that lifestyle, which is why you have all these ridiculous cases where women who are only living the good life because their man works so hard, and then there's a divorce and the woman is like, well, I get to continue to live this way. Like all of Robin Williams' exes and shit. So yeah, it's like, I wonder if they're going to say, well, now that she thought she was going to be a, multi-millionaire, you might want to you're going to have to maintain that lifestyle. I don't know.
Correct me if I'm wrong though, but since the divorce was already finalized in 2018, isn't the ink dry on all that already? Like,
I don't know.
They've discussed this. They've gone back and
it should be.
It should be. Yeah.
Ethically and rationally, it should be, but we know that the American court system is neither ethical nor rational. So that would be an interesting thing to find out, how that's being handled. Because
so at the very least, if she tried to bring that up, it would be sort of without precedent.
Yeah. I don't even know if it would be without precedent. I mean, she probably wouldn't be the first woman who went after a man's post divorce earnings. Women do it all the time for child support. Child support gets based on what he was making when they get divorced. He gets a better job. She goes for more support.
Yeah, I guess
even if a guy gets married and his wife is making money, a lot of times women will go after more support on the basis that his second wife is now taking care of some of his expenses, so he has the money to pay.
Yeah, but he won in 2013. So he won the Mega Millions jackpot in July of 2013. The divorce had started filing in 2011, and they just came to a ruling in 2018. So that means that it was in process. Yeah, it was an ongoing thing in process, but he won a while ago. And so if they just finalize it, it is possible. I mean, I guess we'd have to follow up and see. But it is possible that she might try to get more.
This is a case of, well, the guy got really lucky. I mean, textbook lucky, and the lady got like joke book unlucky, like nightmare unlucky. Like you divorce a guy and then 2 years later he wins the lottery. That's nightmare unlucky, and this is just people trying to clear up the mess, saying no woman should ever be allowed to suffer the consequences of this kind of bad luck.
Yep.
Sorry, that's how luck works. It fucks people randomly.
Well, and I kind of wonder if she's the one that initiated the split up, because that would just be even funnier if she had stayed married to the guy. She would be living in a household that had just gotten $38 million. Now she's divorced and she's fighting him for $15 million. That's really, she looks like a bitch doing this, and everybody around them is probably like, how can you do this? This is just, absolutely ridiculous. Shame on you. Which I think she kind of deserves, honestly. But in any case, yeah, it's luck. But if she's the one that initiated the separation and the divorce, well, she kind of deserves it.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll just have to see how things unfold. So we'll see. I don't know if they're going to follow up on this story or if CNN just put it out because they thought it was shocking. But we're going to move on to the next part of the next little micro story in Men Pay. So the patriarchy pays out, basically. This one is crazy too. Equally to blame, man ordered to pay. This is written by my wife, Stapler. She says, if I was a journalist, which I'm not, I'd disclose my bias before getting into this story. I am biased against cyclists. It's probably because I'm subconsciously jealous of their lack of fear in riding with traffic. This story may add to that fear. I mean, if you're a dude. A cyclist who knocked over a woman who was looking at her cell phone while crossing the road is being ordered to pay about £100,000. The collision occurred in 2015, leaving both the cyclist, Robert Hazeldine, and the pedestrian, Gemma Bruchette, unconscious. Both of them. Okay.
Holy shit, really?
Yeah, he was flying, I guess.
I was gonna say, you can get your bicycle up if you're riding really fast or you're riding downhill. You can get your bicycle up to the same speed as a car.
You could, yeah.
So it's possible, it's possible that he hit her at 25, 35 miles an hour.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, well, let's get into the rest of this.
I'm picturing all this happening in traffic where you shouldn't be going that fast. But
it was
because of the first paragraph. Was this in traffic?
I'll tell you. Not only was Bruchette looking at her phone when the incident occurred, but had not noticed that the lights were green for traffic. So she was actually jaywalking at the time. The judge, Shanti Mauger, said both were equally to blame for the incident on a busy junction near London Bridge, but only Bruchette was entitled to a payout because she had put in a claim and Hazeldine had not. From The Guardian, Bruchette was awarded £4,161 and 79p. Is that how you say it for the change?
Pence?
Pence? Like Mike Pence?
I don't know.
So, yeah, that's about $11.
Oh, okay. Awarded that much in damages after the judge ruled that an 8mm scar on her lip did not detract from her very attractive, that's how they described it, her very attractive appearance, but Hazeldine was told to also pay the legal costs of the 2-day case, estimated to be as much as $100,000. Pounds, I'm sorry. The judge also described Hazeldine as, quote, a calm and reasonable road user, but was still liable to pay damages because, quote, cyclists must be prepared at all times for people to behave in unexpected ways, end quote.
Yeah, because you can brake very quickly, unlike car drivers.
Except that you can't if you're going, like if you're going that fast and you try to stop your bike suddenly, you are likely to actually go sliding. I don't know if you've ever seen a bad road rash from, like, say, maybe a motorcycle accident, but you can do that on a bicycle too. Like, anybody that isn't a cyclist doesn't understand how dangerous it is to walk out in front of somebody who is on a bicycle. And the big difference is you're not protected. Like, intelligent motorcyclists wear protective gear. They wear helmets, they wear leathers, they wear because they're going, if they go on the highway, they're going the same speed as all the cars on the highway. Where, like, a bicycle, you're not gonna go 80 miles an hour down a city street on a bicycle. But it is still dangerous enough, even though you have more control than a motorcycle. It is still dangerous enough that you shouldn't have to stop suddenly like that. And if you're in a situation where you have to stop suddenly, that presents a threat to your safety. And I imagine that the judge probably didn't take that into consideration, but he took an ordinary civilian's looks into consideration. Like, is she an actress or a model or something where she gets paid to look pretty?
No, actually, she works in. I thought it was really weird they brought up the like the scar that she got. That's 8 millimeters. That's like, that doesn't sound like much at all. Long. It's not going to detract from her very attractive appearance. She's in finance. She doesn't. Her looks have nothing to do with her job.
For us,
that's
Yankees, 8 millimeters is a little less than 1/3 of an inch.
Yeah, that's petty and crazy. And I think a guy would have been laughed out of court asking for money because he got a scar on his face, even if he was drop dead gorgeous. If he wasn't making money with his face, because of how it looks,
I just have
the judge would be like, "Who cares how you look?"
Yeah, really. I just have an image of Vega from Street Fighter in a courtroom crying about the scar on his face. People just laughing at his ass.
I just had a vision of he raped me with his bike. As a headline in the Guardian. And if Mark Pearson is possible, anything's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a little bit more to the story. Let's finish it and we can get into it more. So Hazeldine said he was reeling from a verdict that would leave him bankrupt. Yeah, I bet. I mean, he's riding a bike around London. So in a statement, he said, quote, "I am, of course, deeply disappointed with the outcome and concerned by the precedent that it might set for other cyclists," end quote. He realizes now he should have put in a counterclaim at the start of the case, but was reluctant to because he disliked claim culture. He added, quote, "Had I had legal representation at the time of preparing my defense, I would have taken those steps to protect myself," end quote. So the guy didn't like the idea of making counterclaims, and I guess he figured that it was not a big deal and nothing bad would come out of it, and now he's in the hole for 100,000
very
pounds.
admirable mindset, but
naive.
Come on, dude. You should have been realistic.
Yep.
I'm really not sure who to side with here, self-righteous cyclist or self-righteous pedestrian.
Well, let's the way I see it.
Well, now you know how the judge.
She was crossing the street and the light was green for traffic. She was looking at her phone and didn't see him, and he I guess he didn't see her. Maybe he was weaving through cars or something, and he hit her. So I mean, obviously, yeah, they're both at fault. I've never really I think I've only hit a person once on my bike, and I wasn't flying. So, it wasn't that bad. But generally you can be aware. But unfortunately, here's the thing about being a bicyclist, okay? Nobody respects bicyclists. The traffic doesn't, the pedestrians don't. So you are at the bottom of the pyramid, as it were. At the bottom of you're at the bottom. So you just need to
the food chain.
Yeah, the bottom of the food chain, exactly. You need to give everybody the right of way. because cars will run you over. I've been hit by ambulances, ironically, you know, and people,
for respect to spatial awareness. I mean, if you're an old lady and you see a bike coming at you fucking 20 miles an hour, you're gonna have enough respect to get it. Well, you're not gonna be able to get out of the way if you're an old lady, but you get out of the way if you see a bike coming at you at high speed. But if you don't have much in the way of a circle of vision, and you only see movement, then you're less likely to see a cyclist out of your peripheral vision than you are to see a car, and this sort of thing is likely to happen more. So I guess it's respect partially, but you can't help but have not respect for shit you can't see.
Yep. And look, somebody's saying that not all cyclists are terrible. I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm saying that when you're on a bicycle, if you ride a lot like I do, you'll realize that pedestrians don't care about you, so you need to stay out of their way, because you can hurt them more than they can hurt you. So it's actually out of courtesy. But vehicles also don't care about you, and they're going to do more damage. So you are literally at the bottom of the food chain, and so you need to respect that.
How the hell anyone rides a bike through the city
Well,
a foot away from the articulated trucks?
Yeah.
You have to go through the junctions with no, fuck that. Why would you ever do that once in your life? That sounds fucking terrifying.
Well, we have bike lanes.
For some people, it's
bike lanes in
their
Chicago.
only way to get to work.
Yeah. But anyway, so any other thoughts on this story from anybody?
Just the one that jaywalked and then sued the bicyclist that hit her.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Well, I guess we'll see how things goes. But yeah, try if you, again, and also going back to what Mike J was saying. If you're in a situation where you think maybe I shouldn't do a counterclaim because I don't like claim culture, fuck that. Protect yourself. 100,000 pounds sounds like a lot of money.
But by the way, jaywalking isn't a crime that exists in Britain.
That's insane. You're just allowed to walk out in front of traffic, and
they're
responsible.
Free. You can cross the road wherever you like, as long as it appears to be safe. But
well, what if it doesn't?
The court can do you for your intent to be unsafe, because the judge can decide what your intent is in this country. For a second there, I almost thought we had more freedom than y'all. Never mind.
Actually, jaywalking, I don't know if it's against the law in Chicago, but it's not enforced if it is. And people cross whenever.
It's against the law in Dayton, but they don't do anything about it unless somebody causes an accident. And then if you cause an accident, then they come down on you because you created the situation, the dangerous situation. So, if you walk out in front of traffic and somebody swerves to avoid hitting your dumb ass, and then they end up hitting another car or hitting somebody else or something like that, you're going to be liable. And I mean, that's kind of the way it should be.
You're probably not going to get charged for jaywalking. You're probably going to get charged like reckless endangerment or something like that.
You actually might get charged with both.
Stack it up.
But they usually don't hand out tickets for jaywalking because you do it and there's a cop that sees you. In fact, they're not usually watching. So they're busy with a few more serious crimes.
Yeah, same.
Like being a guy in a divorce who got custody of his daughter.
Yeah, it's like really. I mean, jaywalking in Chicago. I don't think they're worried about jaywalking in Chicago. So, but let's move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think about the patriarchy pays out stories in the comment section. In the meanwhile, we're gonna move on to one of the bigger stories. This one is from Mike J.
Thank you, Brian. We really need to get the. Did you ever watch Unsolved Mysteries? And you remember, like at the end, they do updates on all their stories.
Oh yeah. Like an update segment thing at the end.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's what it would be. But they had like a sounder. It's just Richard Stack going update. I think we need that for the show.
That's actually not a bad idea. To go find the soundbite of that.
Maybe I'll see if I can go rip it. I can probably find an old episode kicking around.
Okay.
Update. Anita Sarkeesian needs more money.
There you go. That's a pretty good stand-in. So, Exactly. So Anita Sarkeesian, in the wake of her latest Twitter tantrum aimed at game companies Electronic Arts and CD Projekt Red, new information has surfaced that may shine a light on her behavior. Quick look at the metrics of her YouTube channel, Feminist Frequency, shows a brand that has all but been abandoned by its audience. The channel's more of a ghost town these days. The numbers reflect that, showing that the channel averages -3, yes, -3 subscribers and roughly 3,500 views per day. These are hardly the types of numbers you'd expect to see from a channel with roughly 223,000 subscribers in total.
To be honest, I'm suspicious why this is even a story. I mean, I know why you've made it as a story because other people have turned and made it into a story, and so it's a story. But it's just the story of a shyster going bankrupt. Great. It happens all the time. Who broke this story? Like someone who was watching Anita's income like a hawk, waiting until she's like in dire enough straits to make a story about it. Or is this whole story just orchestrated by Anita herself? I mean, wow, I'm not making enough money.
Lord D chess thing, right?
Give me a free advert in your paper, and people are falling for it. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't think she's that smart, man, unfortunately. Like, if you take a look at, her former partner in crime,
Macintosh?
Well, maybe not her herself, but the people who are trying to keep her afloat are probably looking at this and going, why is Anita running out of money? How do we get her more money? Let's complain to the papers that she's not getting enough money. Boom, they get a story.
I think she's going to have, well, I think the impetus for a lot of this was the Polygon interview, which was one of the most softball interviews. And then she did drop some like, yeah, things aren't the best right now. We've had to do a few things, but don't worry about that. There's more important stuff to talk about. And then people looking at the interview went like, oh, hold on, wait a minute. You said you had to do what? And that's kind of where it, I think, dominoed from there. But continuing, the problems go deeper than just a dead YouTube channel. In an interview with Polygon, the same one I just mentioned, it's disclosed that Anita has, quote, ceased taking a salary and laid off her co-creators and close friends, Ebony Adams and Caroline Petit. She closed her offices, stopped making videos. Feminist Frequency is still going, but now it's mainly focused on the regular podcast hosted by Adams, Petit, and Sarkeesian. Read something that takes no editing, that takes no effort really to do.
Yeah.
And it's a purely voluntary organization now. Clearly, it would seem times are getting tough for Sarkeesian and FemFreak, but just how tough are we talking? Ever since becoming recognized as a non-profit, Feminist Frequency is legally required to publish an annual report detailing money raised and spent. In these reports, it's shown that over the past 5 years, she's raised roughly $1.5 million. How much of that money's left, though? Gonna be throwing a lot of numbers at you, so get ready here. So, the annual reports for 2017-2018 paint a very grim picture for the non-profit's future. In 2017, FemFreak started with about $344,000. In all of 2017, they earned about $255,000. This comes from donations, both corporate and private, grant funding, and miscellaneous revenue sources, which they list as like stuff from Amazon Smile and tax-deductible donations and things of that nature. But in the same year, they also spent $438,000, which left them with roughly $150,000 to start 2018 with.
Women are bad with money, am I right? Women and money, am I right? I'm kidding, go ahead.
And 2018 was much less kind and saw an incoming revenue of $197,000 for, if you haven't been playing along, a total of $355,000. But this fund was completely wiped out by FemFreak's expenditures of $324,000, which, if you haven't been playing along, leaves them with just a little more than $30,000 in the bank to start 2019 with. Ouch. So, amidst rumors of employees from companies that she's consulted for absolutely loathing her, these are just rumors, but I've seen it all over the place, Any game she's been connected to either flopping or fading into obscurity, wants very generous companies closing their wallets to her, a public that seems to have had quite enough of what she's selling, and a non-profit with no profits. Seems like Anita Sarkeesian's run in the world of video games might just be over. But hey, at least you got that room at Facebook.
Yeah, there is that. Well, okay, so I have some questions. This raises some questions. Mike asked why it's a story, and I think that's a fair question. Like, well, for one, why doesn't she just go to BreadTube? Like, maybe just team up with ContraPoints and Big Joel and Three Arrows and make content there. That seems to work for them. Maybe don't talk about video games. Maybe just talk about communism. I think that might make you more money. I mean, that's kind of where you want to go anyways, right?
See, the thing though is even those people don't like her very much now because she is forcing her woman of color coworker and her trans coworker to work for free.
Oh, what? Did they say that though? I mean, I could see them saying.
Oh
that,
no,
but I
have.
What? Hello? You broke up, Mike.
I'm seeing certain sides of the aisle say that or infer that.
Yeah, I could see that.
That
they're still volunteering even though
of course, yes,
no longer able to
one
pay
of them them. Like one of them had to make a what's that called, like Ko-fi or coffee, the thing where it's like you can tip me enough to buy a
coffee,
a coffee or a cup of coffee, cup of joe. And that was the same one who was like vehemently defending her on Twitter. Like, so what if I don't make money? You're all misogynists or something like that. I think it was Carolyn Petit, the one that went on a absolute Twitter tirade in her defense. It's like, wow, you ain't even getting paid for this. That's kind of impressive.
Well, I have no problem with people being vehement about stuff they believe in, even if they don't get paid. I mean, that's we're gonna do that,
Yeah, but
at the same time, this situation, like what could she possibly be doing that she spent that much money? Because my parents ran a business for decades, and they probably, the amount of money that she spent, I don't think they spent the entire time they ran that business. Maybe since there was product that they were purchasing, maybe in the 30 years that they were doing it, they probably spent a few $100,000 over time. And if they made more than that, but it's insane that she spent that much money. And I gotta wonder, was it on equipment?
There's a breakdown. There's a breakdown in the expenditures and
travel expenses.
It says programming. That was this is, I believe I'm looking at the one for 2017. Programming, that was $195,000. Administrative, $116,000. Development
administrative is her pay, isn't it?
Yeah, I do believe.
So she took a big chunk of it, and programming is what in a business like that?
It's like, I think programming is like coming up with the episodes and writing them and everything. I would assume. I don't think
she probably got some of that money
like
too.
Yeah, the editing and that kind of thing.
And then development and community engagement. So that's that's $126,000. So that's the $126,000 they absolutely needed to start that Discord.
Development and community engagement is hey, have you heard the word of our lady Anita Sarkeesian? And you can do it on Twitter, and it doesn't cost anything.
Hannah, it costs a lot of money to open a Discord. Everyone knows that. And then $10K just miscellaneous adjustments with asterisk being miscellaneous adjustments represent items such as outstanding grant amounts and vendor payments in process at year's end.
That's such a scam. That is such a scam. There's just no way there was that level of above board spending for something as simple as what she does, that they would have needed to spend that kind of money doing those things.
And she's only got 2 employees, is that right? And she spent $500,000 in a year.
Yeah, that and I think Jonathan McIntosh counts because I think he did the.
Mac's gone. Mac has been long gone.
No, I know, but like when she was originally doing her videos, her feminist frequency videos, I think McIntosh was involved with like the the on-screen edits, the scene transitions, and all the little effects. Because if you look at his, because if you look at his, what is it, Pop Culture Detective Agency channel, it's got the same, aesthetic, right? He's just doing it for her. And I bet that he probably didn't take any money because at the time she didn't make a lot of money. So he probably just did it as a favor. So in a way, it's like 2 employees because I don't think he was taking anything. Assuming. I don't know.
I just like to point out that he's doing a lot better than she is right now.
Yeah.
His metrics are actually really good, which I guess just again proves that, I guess we got another case here of a man.
It only proves one thing: the patriarchy. Bum bum bum.
Well, right. It's a man getting paid more to do the same thing, right?
Yeah, he probably doesn't spend as much.
But to answer the question, the staff consists of Anita as the executive director, Ebony Adams, the operational director, Carolyn Petit, the managing editor. So there's the core 3. Then you got Rachel Abelar as the design coordinator, and then there's a board. I guess there's a completely different board with Anita Sarkeesian as president, naturally, Felix Kramer secretary. Very, very hard to pronounce foreign-sounding name as director. Ashley Farrell as also director, and Maylee Martinez as treasurer. Well, there's the one that's not doing their job.
Well, there might be a little bit of bloating going on too. Like, how many people does it take to run a YouTube channel? I mean, I don't know.
You need 2 directors.
Yeah, but I know channels that have one person that do everything, and they don't spend as much, and they make better content. So I don't know. And again, I'm not. I guess in a way.
Yeah, we get a much lower budget than that, and we have a staff of God knows how many people at this point getting paid. I don't even know what the financial situation is, but we have more people getting paid than 3, surely.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I mean, it's like little bits in here. I think the main person that gets the main people who get like a regular sort of like, check to live on is me and Alison, I think. Because I worked with her. I agreed to do this full time and quit my job if I could make the same, money, or at least what I was making at the time. So she gave me a living wage, to do this. But I think that even then it's like, we didn't have Anita money. So I don't know, it seems like there was a mismanaging of funds going on. More than anything. And honestly, I can see why people would take pleasure in this happening, but I guess the main point I was making even from before is the disappearance or bankruptcy of Anita Sarkeesian's channel Feminist Frequency does by no means mean that the video game industry is free from feminism, because she was just the loudest, well, I wouldn't even say the loudest, but she seemed to be the loudest voice when it comes to that. But the fact is, the things that she believes, her intersectionality is actually quite common, not only in the video game industry, but in big tech in general. Google, Facebook, all the social media stuff, the majority of it anyway. And that also is not limited to games or any other kind of pop culture that we consume. So, and I know that nobody here has any illusions about that. Like, they don't think that, oh, Anita's dead. It's like killing the final boss and all the other, or the main vampire and all the other vampires die. And she wasn't the final boss. She's not the main vampire. She's just like a true believer that wanted to make content about this. And I disagreed with her, but I never thought that, if we can just make her go bankrupt, everything will be better. So,
but maybe a generation from now, when all of this is blown over, we'll look back. You know how we look back on space hoppers like a thing from the 70s? We'll look back on Anita as a thing from the 10s.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't think she's a true believer who wanted to make content. I think she is a scam artist who learned the language and figured out she could make a profit at it. And I think she figured out creative bookkeeping methods for getting that into her own pockets at the expense of her company. And she probably just doesn't want to do it anymore. And at some point she'll fold because she'll be ready to quit.
Just like we remember Reverend Jim Jones and L. Ron Hubbard and Muhammad.
And I'll bet she won't be in financial duress herself when it happens at all. But she'll probably tell people she is.
Well, I mean, if you look at her history before she got involved with all the feminist stuff, she was doing like teleseminars and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's always been a get rich quick thing.
She came from the get rich quick circuit.
Yeah, that would explain probably why they blew through their money so quickly too, and mismanaged it. It also explains why she hung around with people like Zoe Quinn, who's also pretty much interested in
scam artist.
Yeah, that you're interested in milking people for whatever they have and then moving on. So, but I don't know. I think on some level she might really believe that stuff, but also finds it useful. I think both of those things can be true.
The rumor right now is she's kind of detonating feminist frequency, and she's going to get involved in politics.
There you go. Follow Brianna Wu. Run for Congress. I'd love to see that. Do it.
Yeah, please follow Brianna Wu.
Yeah, please.
Exact crazy footsteps.
Yeah.
Is she up against AOC? Because they're both in Massachusetts, right?
No, AOC was New York.
No, she did
AOC's
so
in New York.
poorly, and
and Brianna Wu's she totally did not win. Did not. But you know what? Keep trying. Chase your dreams. Chase your dreams. Give us lol cows is what I'm saying.
Give us another great advertisement where you make your husband dress up like Godzilla.
Yes.
She might have a rich future as an advertising executive. Now you mention it. Given what whoever it was who got away with that Gillette advert can get away with it. No, she'll be fine probably. There'll be someone out there.
Absolutely.
Who still thinks they won't get broke from going woke.
And you know what? If worse gets to worse, Anita, if you don't realize, you can just start an account like Belle Delphine. Practice your ahegao face, and I think that you'll do just fine. Just follow that model. Become a sex-positive feminist is what I'm saying. Okay, so I got to read some super chats, and then we'll get into the last story. So Zaranx gives us $5 and says, 7 years for a divorce. This is in relation to the story about the guy who won the lottery. Buildings come down faster than they go up. Divorces take longer than the damn courtship. Yeah, well, the wheels of justice are slow, and as are the wheels of injustice. Lauren literally gives us $1.99 and says, does anyone else read that as CD Projekt wrecked? Cry laugh emoji? Yeah. I'm so looking forward to Cyberpunk. I hope it's good. The Great Endoras gives us €10 and says, for the HBR Loot Crate, now call me Daddy. I'm always available for consulting, by the way. Thank you, Daddy, for the €10. Master Rogue gives us $5 and says, it was never non-profit. It was always their pay. They saw how much VAWA makes and wanted in on that with minimal effort. You know, she could get into politics and become a lobbyist and become a part of VAWA, because the thing is that feminism is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and Anita just wants a piece of that pie. And now that she's put out that that's what she is, she's got to double down on that. So I wouldn't be surprised if
she made a strategic mistake by trying to be a non-profit. Because I think we talked about this at length that Honey Badger Radio should be a non-profit or a corporation. We went with corporation for the reasons we're now seeing played out in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a non-profit, you end up stagnating like Anita for very complicated reasons that I don't have time to go into, and I don't understand anyway.
Honestly, there's a distinct possibility in my mind, based on what she came from, that might have been a deliberate thing. Like I said, it looks like, just from what was listed off as what the money went to, that's all stuff that she was going to get paid for doing. And I'm sure, not 100% sure, but this looks to me like she set up a nonprofit to be able to siphon money off of donations without paying the level of taxes that she would have paid if she were a for-profit corporation.
Yeah. And
without having the level of liability and responsibility that she would have in a for-profit corporation.
And I guess she's not allowed to complain about any political party or any political candidate, right? That's one of the things about being a non-profit. You're not allowed to have a political opinion. And that means she can't talk about fucking anything that all of her friends are talking about.
Technically, she's not supposed to, but I mean, the SPLC is a non-profit too, and look what they've done. And they've gotten away with it for years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all they have to do is assert what they're saying is the truth. Like, oh, hey, this guy's a white supremacist. I mean, we're not saying that because we don't want him to be the candidate for this political office. We're saying it because it's the truth, guys.
Yeah, and they don't even have to prove it.
True that. Okay, Hoki Bukisa gives us $4.99 and says she had the spotlight for a hot minute and thought it would not end. Spoiled kid with no business sense. Ciara DeFleur gives us $2 and says, I wonder what her husband thinks of this. Oh, he's just gonna... Look, I don't think that she's destitute. She's gonna be fine. She's probably going to be able to use her celebrity status, which she does have. She's rubbed shoulders with Stephen Colbert. She's rubbed shoulders with Joss Whedon. She's gonna be just fine. She's gonna, go back.
Colbert made her look like a fucking moron.
She better go back, lick her wounds, and probably return in some capacity. So don't, like I said, let's just wait and see. But I don't think that this is the last that we see of Anita Sarkeesian. And one other thing,
we still know who Gloria Steinem is, and Gloria Steinem
Yes.
was talking utter shit back in the day.
That's right.
We'll still be getting celebrity appearances from Anita 30 years from now, unless the reason she's lost all this money is because of the coke, in which case she'll die pretty soon.
One other thing I wanted to say really quick before we move on to the last story. I noticed that when we were looking at the balance, her revenue that she got from corporate donations versus individual donations, corporations were pretty fucking stingy. They gave her only, look, this is a lot of money, okay? But I'm just going to compare. Corporate donations, $95,535 and some change. Individual donations, $137,587. So woke corporations, which I'm pretty sure they were probably somewhat woke because they donated to her, did not give as much as regular ass people that just really believed in what she was selling. And I think that tells you a lot about corporate activism, in my opinion. If anything, they probably should have backed her up more than most. So I just thought that was worth pointing out. I noticed it and I thought, I wonder how much money she gets for corporations. It wasn't that much. So, and then there's the grants, but that's that's not that much at all. That's like $7,000 or something. All right. Anyway, let's move on to the next story unless there are some final thoughts on this one. Nope. Okay. So last one, university to offer free vasectomies to men. University of Nevada, the Reno School of Medicine, has a student outreach clinic. Starting soon, men will be able to go to the clinic to get a free vasectomy. Daniel Spogan, MD, says that, quote, family planning has focused more on women's health, pregnancy, and childbirth. Vasectomies offer a highly effective contraceptive option and allow men the opportunity to take on a greater role in their contraceptive responsibility. Interesting, he calls it a responsibility when it comes to men. End quote. UNR Med recommends that men who are thinking about getting a vasectomy at the clinic should schedule a consultation before having the procedure. Patients will be required to complete a physical exam and fill out paperwork a month before the procedure.
So I presume as soon as Vagisil is approved, right, then there's going to be across universities across the country and across the world, there's going to be projects to offer free Vagisil to men, given just how incredibly cheap it is, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to see that rolling out over the next few years. Is that what's going to happen, or are we going to see people suddenly falling in love with vasectomies instead?
Yeah. So
the thing that people don't realize is vasectomies are a little more permanent. People talk about them being reversible, but they're not always.
No,
they're not always reversible, and they're also
that's really risky.
You can get a vasectomy, and it can reverse itself without you knowing. It's a rare thing, but it does happen, and so it's like I would, especially if you're getting it done by med students. Not to disparage med students. I mean, they're going into the profession because this is the focus of their lives, but this strikes me as a bit odd, and especially since they're looking at doing it to younger men, and
yeah, No,
something that you consider heavily before you do it, just like a woman should consider heavily getting her tubes tied before she does it. It's really, if you plan on being a dad in the future, you might want to not consider this option and stick with condoms instead. Which the other thing about this is, all right, you get a vasectomy, it doesn't mean that you can just have unprotected sex and be safe, because again, it doesn't stop the transmission. A vasectomy doesn't stop the transmission of AIDS. It doesn't stop the transmission of herpes. It doesn't stop the transmission of pelvic inflammatory disease. It doesn't stop the transmission of HPV, which is what will give you cancer. So you still are going to probably, if you're looking at it as a, hey, I got free birth control, you're still looking at the possibility of very unsafe sex. At a university where lots of people are getting drunk and having unsafe sex and passing around diseases. And like, this is one of the reasons why we have, even though it's not 1 out of 2 people, but some people with a lot of infections, we have a 50% infection rate with STDs. If you combine all the different STDs and look at them all at once, we have a 50% infection rate with STDs in the United States because of the sexual revolution. So don't let this make you comfortable being careless.
Soon it'll be like the cocaine on American banknotes, like 98%. Soon it'll be 98%.
Well, lip herpes is getting there. It's not considered an STD, but that, like getting a cold sore on your mouth, more people in the United States have that than don't.
Yeah. I actually find this really worrying, because they're saying that vasectomy is a form of male birth control. I think it's a pretty fucking extreme form. I think that somebody who's going to do that, they have to be committed to that idea before, like, not for these reasons. Like, this has to be
It's the equivalent of, correct me if I'm wrong, a hysterectomy, right?
No, it's the equivalent of tube tie. A hysterectomy actually removes the incubator, essentially, where getting your tubes tied prevents the gametes from making it into the incubator in the vaginal area where they would get fertilized. So your equivalent is that it's getting your tubes tied, which, to be honest, if a guy has already decided, I am definitely never going to have kids, I don't want to have kids as long as I live, it's a bad idea, something like that, no problem. Then this is for you. But if you're not sure, then I would wait. Because it's not like getting your tubes tied is more reversible than getting a vasectomy.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point of Vagisil is a vasectomy blocks off the sperm, but then those sperm need somewhere to go, and they have nowhere to go but your own body, and then they get reabsorbed back into the body, and that causes problems with the immune system, which are also too dumb to go into. But yeah, that's the point. It's not just about the baby thing. It's about how to not die and shit.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm worried that it worries me that a university is offering free vasectomies. When I hear that, I get the sense that, and maybe, I mean, they don't really go into it. This is a really brief little story, but I get the sense that there's a desire to reduce the population, because if you get a bunch of male students vasectomies, even if it's at a university, and they go out into the world and they think that what they did was a good idea at the time because they want to fuck bitches and not worry about the consequences, once they get back out into the world, they come to the realization that they do want to start a family at some point, because a lot of times guys don't figure it out till later, and they can't. And I know that we're already...
Well, they can't without harvesting the sperm through a needle.
Yeah, but I mean, that seems like a challenge.
It is. It's when it like when I had my son, they offered to tie my tubes, and I wish I'd have taken him up on it because I thought about it later. My family was in financial dire straits, and the best test of whether or not we could afford to bring another child into the world
Mm-hmm.
would have been, can we afford to go through the financial difficulties we're going to have to do to get pregnant? And if the answer was no, then we weren't financially ready. But that doesn't necessarily mean that every guy should do the same thing, right? Especially not at college. And here's the other thing, and it's gonna sound elitist, but it's not. You're looking at the sterilization of the people who are going to be educated and make their living, hopefully, based on a degree that they are getting. So they're gonna sterilize the people that are making the wisest choices, and the people that are making the least wise choices, who are going to be in a situation where they don't have access to that. They're gonna have lots of babies, right? So then the next generation is going to be less prepared, less capable, and more open to the type of government control that gets imposed when the government says, "Well, it's okay. We know you can't take care of yourselves. We'll take care of you."
Yeah, but this is
As soon
only
as the government comes in and steps in to help,
happening
you're
to
under their
men
control.
though. They're not offering like whatever the female equivalent is for free.
Well, how many women get pregnant without a guy?
Well, I get that, but those women can go somewhere else and get pregnant. Like in this
Right, to the
college,
guys that are not making the wisest
yes,
choices.
right.
Now, that's not to say that every guy has to go to
Well,
college, right? Because
yeah,
I mean, there's also trades and stuff, but this is actually the elimination of the educated class. Why would a university want to do this?
yeah, exactly. That's
Why would a
like, this is.
progressive university want to do this?
I'll have to find out if the University of Nevada, Reno is a progressive university. Let me find out what a little bit about them. I wouldn't be surprised because it's a university, and that seems to be just like the norm. But
Doug Stanhope had a bit. It was never quite a fully formed bit that voluntary eugenics it would be a good idea because it's fully ethical if it's voluntary. Like if come in, get a vasectomy, and get tickets to go crossbow hunting with Ted Nugent. Then you get the only people who'll be pulling themselves out of the gene pool will be Ted Nugent fans who you don't particularly want in the gene pool. It all sort of works itself out. But yeah. At first I laughed, and then I thought, yeah, that's a good idea. And then the more you think about it, the more you think, oh no, not really, no. Because it's much like my idea with suicide booths. If you build suicide booths, they won't attract the right kind of people. They won't attract the people that need to die. They'll attract the people who want to die, and they are not those are not the same thing at all. You know what I mean?
yeah, I don't know, man. This is really for me. This really bugs me. I don't like that this is going on, and that there is a potential for men to go into something that's irreversible, or at least like very difficult to reverse it. And it wouldn't be cheap. Like maybe the vasectomy is free, but like if you want to get it reversed, it costs a lot of money. I don't know. And it worries me that they would be doing that.
Guys should feel obligated to do this either, and they're making it sound like an obligation.
You know what it is? I don't like that people look for the easiest what they believe are the easiest solutions to what they believe are immediate problems. So, I want to have sex, but I don't want to worry about getting a girl pregnant. So, they're offering free vasectomies. That's male birth control. And I get why men want to be able to control their reproductive health because, well, I don't want to say reproductive health, but they want to control that because perhaps they can't trust that women will do it. Perhaps they're worried that a woman will, try to get them on the hook for 18 years. By lying about whether or not she's on the pill, and they're trying to finish school, and these things are on their mind. They're not stupid, I don't think, and so they are worried about that. But the problem is that, and this is like a quick and easy solution, and it's free. And so it comes across as kind of like, well, it's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't I do that? But what I'm thinking about is that why is it, instead of looking for like the quick solution, getting a vasectomy, expecting a free, hassle-free, expedient abortion, or for men and women, these like really quick solutions to very complex problems, when the best road to take, in my opinion, I guess it's the hardest, which is to just fucking like practice discipline, control yourself, like be adamant, don't mess around with women you don't want to be with then. But like a vasectomy, I think, is a really extreme solution to a problem that I think that there is a more difficult road, because I think that, when you're 20 and your hormones are raging, it can be more difficult than simply, going with your urges and not worrying about the consequences. But you'll be a better person for it, I think. You'll be a stronger man. And
well, among other things, if you're not having sex, you have a lower, with random women, you have a lower chance of being accused of raping one of them. It's when you are in a trusting relationship, a loving, trusting relationship with someone, she's a lot less likely to lash out at you with something like that. And the other thing is, you're a lot less likely to catch a disease if you're playing roulette with one bullet than with 5. This is just. Well, I can't harp on being careful enough as a self-defense mechanism. And it's not just about morals. It's not just about ethics. It's about what can happen to you. And especially university students, because university students are in an environment where the girls are being taught that they're not responsible for anything that they do. And everything is your fault. And if they feel bad, they've been victimized. And if they're embarrassed, they've been victimized. And if their friend is embarrassed, they should go report on her behalf. So you're really in a gender war zone at university. It's the worst possible place to be sleeping around, especially as a guy. Because like women, they have the risk of getting a disease. They have the risk of getting pregnant. Guys have the risk of being falsely accused of a reprehensible act that will reflect on them for the rest of their lives, whether they did it or not. So if you're at university, focus on your studies. And if the gals get mad at you for it, tell them you're just not taking any chances.
Another thing I want to say that concerns me with regards to this too is that in the United States, birth rates are already declining as it is. And we're gonna it's just like the guy when I was on we did a show responding to this Jesse Lee Peterson panel, Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. That's amazing. And he had a guy who was supposed to be an incel on, and he was talking about how, in his opinion, all of this, waiting to start families and maybe not having them if you don't want any. Look, if you don't want that, that's okay. But I think that for the most part, it's good to wait, to practice waiting without getting these kind of final or very difficult to reverse surgeries and processes that kind of take away your choice if you change your mind later, right? And as someone myself who is now sterile because of testicular cancer, I have regrets. I wish I had, I wish I could have had kids, but I can't. And before that, I didn't want any, or I didn't really think I wanted any. And I think that that's what the incel guy said is that this only results in a dead society, because after a while, there just won't be enough people. And I want us to have a society. And I think that there is a lot of there's a lot against this country. A lot of people don't want us reproducing, or they don't want Americans reproducing, and they're pushing against that. And I think that if people choose that, that's one thing. But I think that this vasectomy stuff, it has me worried, because it's like the universities are essentially offering to reduce birth rates. And I don't know if men are going to buy into it or not, but I think that really concerns me. And on top of that, they're not doing anything like for women. Like, they're not giving them birth control. They're just like, what's the advocacy for that? Like, even though women have 17 forms of birth control, what's the conversation? It's only around abortion. And what? Free abortion. What does that mean? Paid for by taxpayers. What does that mean? Paid for by men. So they want men to pay for women's birth control, which they're calling abortion, and they want men to essentially castrate, neuter themselves so they can't have kids. Because this is like, I know that they can be reversed, but we're talking about a really risky process. And that's the thing that concerns me. And it doesn't lead to anything good, because there are people, many of them, most of us want to have families. They want to have kids. If you take that away, then, by offering this really quick and easy stuff that requires basically zero, like zero investment. Oh, here's a free vasectomy. Oh, and here's free birth control. Well, which is the abortion, right? And I think that if they get their way, that's what will happen. And the problem with that is that it will result in a dead society. There won't be enough people to make more people. And maybe that's what they want.
In the first world, I mean, in the third world, a dead society looks like a desert. But in the first world, a dead society looks like a society that's really into immigration. Because that's the first sign of the void being filled, because that's what happens when you've got a void of people who don't want a culture anymore. It just pulls in other cultures to fill it. Other people who do want to just fuck and fill the world with people. And like I've for many years I've been quite passionately on the side of for fuck's sake stop overpopulating, and I still stand by it. But if there's one particular large civilization or society, or even continent wide, or even, shall we say, race, who's putting out this message, and the rest of them are still going, no, be fruitful and multiply, then I don't know how. I can't get very far by telling my fellow countrymen to stop exploding population wise, because the rest of the world's going to continue to do it. But at the same time, we can't get into an arms race over population. That's just going to lower the value of human life. I mean, necessarily, right? Mm-hmm. The more humans you have, the less valuable they are. So I still don't know how to approach this, because I can see in a way where the SJWs are coming from, because overpopulation, if it isn't a problem now, it's going to be, unless we do something to harness our nature, right? Because every organism's nature is to be fruitful and multiply, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I can see the other side of the argument, that if the smart people will figure this out first, and therefore they'll die out, and the dumber people will just take over. And this sort of explains why the pyramids are left over, because really smart people built them, and then those really smart people died, leaving behind the dumbass stoneworkers who built it.
Yeah. Well, my final thought, I just want to say something to that. Usually when a population gets over a certain number, I want to say like 10 billion or something like that, there's something that happens that always like culls the herd, like a disease or something. I think that there will be something, it's probably already starting, in fact, because I know that a lot of diseases are making a comeback. Thanks, San Francisco. And for all we know, we could just like become, like there will probably be a culling of the human race that will happen naturally, just because, there's so many people so close together. That's just probably inevitable. I think that
I tell myself that Pride Month is just nature doing that to it. So that's how I get through it.
There is that. And again, we're already we're already like the birth rate's already dropping, and just like you said, it's not stopping other parts of the world from doing it. My thing is this: somebody asked me if I was going tradcon with that statement. That's not like us reproducing and pair bonding is not a tradcon thing. It's a human thing. It's what we do. I am not going that way, but what I'm saying is that men and women are going to want to start families. And the problem is that the way that the direction that things are pushing them now is against that. And I think that is by design. There's constant promotion of, hey, just like adopt kids, or hey, abortion is a right. You should shout your abortion. You should celebrate the fact that you've done this thing. That should be a very difficult choice. And I'm not putting my flag in the ground on what side of that I stand on, because I bounce back and forth. But the point is that that's not the way that the conversation is headed. It's essentially telling women that that's something that they not just have a right to do, but they should feel an obligation to do. And now they're doing the same thing to men. This university is offering to essentially neuter them like a dog. And it is...
Yeah, it would seem the correct answer, at least the compromise answer, is no woman should have more than one child. 2 is too many, because that would maintain the idea of family, but prevent overpopulation, because replacing
Actually,
each parent with 2 would gradually reduce it. But you can't come up with an answer that would satisfy everyone, because people want more than one child, and some people want way more than one child, and who are you to tell them they can't?
See, that's the thing. When my parents were in school, there were people telling the students at that time that by today, the world would be so overpopulated that everybody would just have 1 square foot to stand on, and that would, if they didn't dramatically reduce the population growth in that amount of time, and it hasn't been dramatically reduced. The population growth is reduced, but not like they were told that they needed to, and that is not what happened. It didn't create a level of overpopulation like was predicted, even though it wasn't reduced. The population growth wasn't reduced, and worldwide it was barely reduced at all until recently. So this was a false prediction. And the same thing was done with there's not going to be any fish left in the ocean. Like every 10 years, we get past another dire prediction of there will be no more fish, and there are still fish. So like these predictions, don't necessarily buy into that stuff. Look into it a little more before you get worried about it. And the same thing with the population increase. And then we look at the smart people figuring this stuff out. Well, the smart people are figuring out that it might be possible to colonize the moon. It might be possible to colonize Mars. It might be possible to, develop better space travel capabilities. There might actually be moons of other planets in our own solar system that are habitable. So they're exploring ideas that even if we were overpopulating, even if we were actually heading toward that dire prediction of only having 1 square foot to stand on because of how many people there are, that is not going to actually result in what they're predicting. This is panic mongering at its finest, actually. In terms of the population is growing too fast and we have to stop making new people, it's really ridiculous, and don't let that be the reason why you make your life choices. Really,
this is something that this is an impression people tend to get when they've lived in cities for a long time, and when they've been in spheres of work like mine, where you see just large swathes of where people live.
Yep.
It just amazes you how many fucking people there are in the world. This is an impression you get in built-up areas,
where people have tended to gather together.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's all right, let's carry on being fruitful and multiplying, but at some point we're going to have to deal with with the idea that there's too many of us, because it's something like the amount of vertebrate land-based mass on the planet that is either human or humans' livestock or humans' pets. Like before the Bronze Age, it was something like 2%, and in the current year, it's 98%. Like that's how much of the vertebrates on land that we are in control of at this point, and that is pretty scary. We're sort of in a position where we can reform entire landscapes from horizon to horizon. But like I said, we can only see this when we're in cities, and it's only in cities where this is the case.
Yeah.
But we can only build up
find it
so
that
much
scary.
before we have to eventually reach the conclusion that I know we have a nature to keep growing, but we are going to have to address that nature and not keep growing until we've built the shelf space not on this planet. Right? Let's get the colonies on Mars first and then overpopulate, right?
Yeah, I think the overpopulation fear mongering is a lot like the rape culture fear mongering. I'm looking at it and looking at what was predicted and what ended up happening. I'm seeing a scam.
Well, we'll have to revisit that that conversation another time. But I do want to get through these super chats and then move on because we went over, but that's okay. So I got some super chats. Well, you guys have been really, really generous with your donations. Thank you so much. Let me go back a little bit. Oh yeah, Ciara de Flora. This was when we started talking about this whole vasectomy story. So this is all related to this. Gives us $2 and says the reversal success rate, this is for vasectomies, is between 30% and 90%. That doesn't sound good, 30%. I don't know what the average is, but thank you for the info. Egregious Charles gives us $2 and says, sounds like a plan to reduce the human population. Yes, that's what I was thinking. And also, it's taking something away from men. Offering it to them for free, and then they voluntarily, get it done. So I'm not saying they don't have any agency in this, but I think a young man should know the consequences, and it kind of concerns me.
We gave women complete unilateral control over their reproductive rights, and it didn't result in population reduction whatsoever. It continued the upward trend. So I don't know, maybe lateral thinking here. If we give men those same rights, maybe it might go in the other direction, or maybe it might send us to doom. Who knows?
Well, if they tell men the same thing that women have been told for their entire lives, like the opposite sex is responsible if you don't bother to take responsibility for yourself. Well, then then the population will continue to grow.
Exploding Prinny at Work gives us $5 and says, Badgers, have you been following the Veritas leaks about Google and resulting removal of said video? Been seeing a lot of DuckDuckGo ads lately. Yes, I have.
I know nothing of these things. They are not on Google. Orange man bad.
Ciara de Flora gives us another $5 and says they have a queer student union. UNVR is progressive. Imagine my shock. Miles Kinslow gives us $5 and says, hey guys, what are your thoughts on on adoption? Is it same as biological? Holy shit, that's a big ass question. Is it same as biological? Well, I mean, I think adoption's great because there's lots of kids that need it. There are women who abandon their children all the time, or kids that become orphans. So
yeah, if you're going to advocate against abortion, then you're going to need to advocate for adoption.
Yeah,
there's no because
you have to give another option.
That's the fix to that problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally advocate for adoption and foster parenting. Especially like if you're in a position where you really wanted to dedicate your life to care and nurturing of a child and you can't have one, that's you're the perfect candidate. You're exactly somebody who should be adopting or fostering a child, simply because you already wanted to be there for a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. But it's not the same. It's different. but it doesn't make it a bad thing, and it doesn't make either one of them a bad thing. They're both good options, and
Yeah.
it's neither one should be done if you don't want to be a parent.
Okay, so let us know who in the chat is an adoptee, and did you like your adoptive parents? Are you happy you were adopted? I assume so, but French Honey Badger gives us $5 and says, wait, I missed it. Oh, there is no overpopulation. There's an issue with warfare, welfare, and in general, bad state institution, which limits economic growth. That's the issue. Xerax gives us $5 and says, the only reason for concern over population size is human beings like convenience, and urban areas are very convenient. There's a lot of space. Well, yeah, I mean, I drove across the country and there's a whole lot of nothing in the United States. But when you get to a city, it's like, it's like if you dropped a candy bar on the ground and a bunch of ants got on top of it, that's like a city. And then if you go out to like the lawn, it's a lot harder to find ants, but they're out there. They're just really spread out. French Honey Badger gives us $5 and says, free market capitalism encourages people to look ahead and plan for the future. Welfarism and statism encourages short-sightedness, which is, I guess, in relation to people's decisions to just do the quick and easy thing to solve their problems, especially when they're quote-unquote free. Lauren literally gives us $4.99 and says, the West Asian brown recluse is going to repopulate and take over the world. Oh, that spider. We have the brown recluse is actually in Chicago. It's a poisonous spider that can kill you too. Although I've never seen one, thank God.
I heard it was MAGA country.
It's also MAGA country. I think the brown recluses, they voted Trump despite the fact that they're brown.
There we go. I have seen a brown recluse. It's one of the creepiest experiences when you realize what it is.
Yeah.
And they're not likely to kill you, but they have a necrotizing poison that will cause an infection. And if
that'll make you wish you were dead.
Yeah, and I have a family member that got bit by one that we're pretty sure anyway he got bit by one. He had to have the bite treated with God, I can't think of what it's called, but it's in they put it in a sealed environment, like they wrap a thing around the limb that the bite is on, and put oxygen in there and create a bit of a different environment, a different air environment in there. There were a bunch of things they had to do. They had to do antibiotics. It's a really complicated treatment, and I don't want to see another one.
There's some kind of Brazilian spider that gives you death by priapism, or death and priapism. For those who don't know, priapism is a non-sexual, constantly sustaining erection. There's a Brazilian spider somewhere that gives you a massive boner and then kills you like 10 hours later.
Yeah.
And no one ever, whenever I hear these facts, because even Grade A Under Ray did a video about this. Whenever I hear these facts, no one tells me what happens to women who get bitten by this spider. Where do they get wrecked? Do they just get so wet that they gush themselves and dehydrate themselves into death or something?
Their clitoris is enlarged. Their clitoris is enlarged and swell up like a balloon.
I was going to say there are tissues around the clitoris that create erection as well. So that would do the same thing. It would do the same thing to women. It would just be over a slightly larger area of the pelvic area, and it would be less noticeable to anyone but the woman.
Brown recluses, despite being 13% of the population. I'm kidding. Okay, so next super chat.
That's actually what the joke was based on, by the way. That's what Lauren was talking about from my recent video. Oh, and now you've come full circle to it. So you just got the joke.
Didn't even try. Okay, so Lauren literally gives us another $4.99. Thank you, Lauren, and says the West Asian brown recluse. I already read that one. French Honey Badger, $5. Last super chat says if overpopulation is an issue, then the price of everything would increase, pushing people to reduce their consumption and reproduction. Not an issue. Okay, so with that said, we are going to go into the after show. We might end up talking about overpopulation the whole time. I'm not sure, or brown recluses. But I'm aiming to try to get through at least part of this article. It's not really an article. It's more like a novella that she wrote, a short story by this woman named Jean Carroll, Jean Carroll. This reads, how Donald Trump assaulted me in a Bergdorf Goodman dressing room 23 years ago, but he's not alone on the list of awful men in my life. And basically, it's a story about all of the terrible rich men that groped her in Manhattan or something. I'm not really sure. We'll get into it in the after show. So if you guys want to be a part of the after show, you have to become a badger by going to feedthebadger.com and starting a monthly subscription. Any levels, I believe, will get you into the Patreon, but you have to be at a certain level to get into the after show. One level gets you to watch them, and you can like comment, just like you guys are doing right now. And another level will get you to essentially join into the call, either as someone who can talk or just listen in live and chat in the Discord. So go to feedthebadger.com to start that. Also, don't forget, ICMI 2019 is coming up in August. It's already like less than 2 months away. Super exciting, super stressful stuff.
It's gonna be crazy.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be crazy. We have lots of great guests there. Go to icmi.info to find more. And also the schedule is up, so you can see who's gonna be going on what days. And there's also now, you can buy one-day tickets. So if like you're on a budget and you can't like afford the whole weekend and all that, I can understand that. We have tickets so you can go for one day. There'll also be, I believe we're going to be doing like meetups while we're there. So yeah, come check us out, ICMI 2019. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. And I want to thank Hannah and Mike J and Dr. Ranamerkamp for coming on the new show and talking to me about these really ridiculous stories. And I want to thank you guys for joining us. Let us know what you guys think about all of the stories we talked about today in the comment section below. Also, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Whew. That was a lot. Mouthful. So we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for coming on and have a great rest of your night.